This is TWiT.
Let's see. Apple. Oh, this Apple Epic trial is the gift that keeps on giving. Not only is it just fun, it's entertaining to watch, and it's a bench trial. There's no jury, so the fireworks are all aimed at the judge, the poor judge. But Discovery has really given us a lot of interesting stuff. For instance, Fortnite, which is Epic's, big title, has made more than $9 billion for Epic in the first 2 years. This also part of the Discovery. So Apple's point, I guess, is, hey, we're not holding them back. $9 billion. That ain't bad. Apple's done all right, too, though. The testimony from Epic's expert witness said that Apple's App Store had a 78% margin in 2019. That's a nice profit margin. Is that credible? I mean, remember,
Apple disputes that.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
Right.
And they also,
97%.
incidentally, they urged the judge to restrict public discussion of App Store profit. So, Your Honor, that figure is wrong, but we would prefer that you not talk about it, okay?
It's like, Apple, we know you're rich. Calm down. Everyone's aware that you make a lot of money.
Guys.
Yeah.
Does Apple also want us not to look at Barbara Streisand's house?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. We don't make 78%.
Can I just give a shout out though? So over on The Verge, Elizabeth wrote a piece about this, and it has the best, I think, lead of anything I've read about the Apple Epic trial. And it says, if you have ever wanted to see a bunch of mumbly nerds struggle to define what constitutes a game, well, Epic versus Apple is the trial for you. And I think that summarizes my entire take on the hearing. It's two pigs in the same pile of crap wrestling over each other, trying to talk about how much money they deserve. It's whimsical to me.
Well, but it's not completely inconsequential. The App Store is a big part of Apple's profits, clearly, whether it's 78% or not. The iPhone is while not the best-selling phone in the world, it's certainly the best-selling phone in the United States. We also are learning a little bit about how the App Store works, which Apple's always been very careful not to reveal. For instance, and this is again from Discovery, and testimony in this case by one of the heads of the App Store, there are 5 million apps. 5 million apps are submitted to the App Store every year. The rejection rate is less than half, 40%. 60% get through. Of the rejected apps, 215,000 infringed Apple's privacy guidelines. By the way, most of the rejections are not appealed. The developer puts their tail behind their legs and fixes it and comes back. Less than 1% of developers appeal the rejection. They also said, and I'm trying to find that, 500 people doing the reviews. So I'm going to do some math. 500 people, 100,000 apps a week.
Yep.
That's 2,000 apps a person a week, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
How do you...
Yep.
Okay, you work in a
don't.
5-day week. That's 400 apps a day. You're working an 8-hour day. That's 50 apps an hour.
That's 50 an hour. So it's basically 1 a minute.
And that's if you don't get lunch.
Right.
So you don't have a lot of time. There are automated tools they use, right? But
right. I mean, you have to, right? I mean, I would assume that most of what they're doing is running automated tools. And I don't know. I mean, this is just my own inference from what they're saying, that they're using automated testing tools to go through the contents to look for certain things. And then if something comes back looking weird, then maybe they need to,
stuff
check
gets
it out.
through, though. In fact, another revelation, which is very kind of depressing. You might remember that about 2015, there was a malicious Xcode discovered that was offered especially to Chinese developers, saying it'll be faster to download this Xcode Ghost, which is Xcode, but we're getting it from Chinese servers. It'll be faster for you than trying to get it from Apple's servers. Apparently, a lot of developers used it. Of course, it was malware, and it allowed any program that was written with Xcode Ghost had a payload that would allow remote access plus gathering information from the phone. Turns out more than 4,000 apps used this Xcode Ghost. They were downloaded 203 million times by 128 million users, mostly in China. Only about 18 million users in the United States. But here's the unfortunate exchange of emails from Apple executives at the time who considered notifying all 128 million affected users and then decided, yeah, maybe not.
Impressive.
They decided, we're going to pull the apps. That's all we're going to do. 128 million, by the way, many different languages. It might have been a challenge, but is it Apple's response? You think, Alex, that they absolutely should have done that?
Yeah, own up to it. I mean, come on. If you have a mistake of this magnitude, if so many apps are written with a malicious IDE, I suppose, and you end up helping to compromise this many accounts, you should be honest about it. Speak about it. I mean, like Christina's on. So if Microsoft did this, I would say the same thing. Same thing about Alphabet or Google, whatever.
Well, and in fairness, like we had a similar situation with the SolarWinds fiasco, right? So the SolarWinds thing that was, that was SolarWinds software, but then it was able to make changes on people's machines. There's Did
Microsoft with the Exchange server issues, did they notify all? They did patch it.
I don't know if they notified everyone. It would be difficult, I think, to notify everyone. It would depend on how they joined. Or signed up for this service.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, it's one of those situations where there was public announcements all over the blogs, all the channels. A tool was created for people who don't have an IT administrator to go through and do things. I mean, it was not one of those things where it was not discussed, right? And to the point that actually, governments were taking, like local governments are taking the task of saying we might have to go through some of these servers ourselves to patch things if they're unpatched. Yeah. I mean, so... But the SolarWinds thing was another scenario where it's like, when that happened, you're public about it.
Apple never even published a list of all the apps affected. They only published a list of the 25 most downloaded apps and said if users have one of these apps, they should update the affected app, which will fix the issue on the user's device. If the app is available in the App Store, it has been updated. If it isn't available, it should be updated very soon. It would have been nice to say, here's the 4,000 apps. If you have one of these, delete it immediately. That would have been the right thing to do.
Right, or to release an app on the App Store that goes through and says, if you have this installed, put a pop-up that says, this is wrong and uninstall it. They have the ability to do this sort of thing. They haven't used it in the past, and I know that it would be a really slippery slope to do remote, removal or execution of stuff, but they have the ability to do that. I think for me, and I'm not advocating that they should have done that, but to me, to Alex's point, and I would say this for any company, if you do this, own up to it. But especially, it's the right thing to do, and it's the best thing for the safety of your customers. But secondarily, when your whole MO and a big part of your marketing campaign and a big part of the things that you say that you were better than everyone else at is privacy and security, when you don't do this, this to me is just like, how are you able to take the moral high ground in the things that you put with iOS 14.5 that make Facebook and Google and other places angry? How are you able to have that sense of, we're so much better, if you're not willing to own up when things go wrong and things were in your app store that were not that were created with a malicious IDE? Like, is it Apple's fault that the IDE was malicious? No. But once that stuff gets into your store, you owe it to your customers to be transparent about how they can know that happened and that they can get rid of those applications.